Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here at Exploring Future Reality, and thank you for joining us all here in New York. Before we start, are you cool with us calling the entire spectrum of AR, VR, MR simply XR? Any objections? All right, so now you're ready for this. Go XR, be awesome. No matter who you are, your job, your gender, your background, XR can make you better at anything you do. It's a powerful message, but I personally was going for something a bit more punchy, like go XR or go extinct. Because in 2018, every startup, corporation, or investor must get into XR or be left behind. And you don't want to be late to the next wave of spatial computing. And there's no better place to get into it than here in the RLab. But I'm getting ahead of myself. It's really a great moment in the history of XR. I love XR. I've been loving XR for over 12 years now as an entrepreneur, investor, and really helping build the ecosystem. And I've been looking forward to this day for many years. Every once in a while, a revolutionary technology comes along that changes everything. And XR is one of those technologies. And you guys in this room are part of this new revolution. It's finally happening. XR is rising, and it's lifting all boats. It took a long while, though, for XR to achieve this overnight success. It was invented in 1968 and quietly brewing in labs all around the world. This year, it's celebrating 50 years. But up until very recently, we were still struggling with just making the basics work. I went back to the first AWE back in 2010. Any fans of AWE in the audience? Got a few, that's nice. So as Justin said, it's probably the industry event where everybody comes together to share the latest and greatest and learn about it. Next year, we're actually going to celebrate 10 years. But it's almost hard to remember how it all started back in 2010. I found this old keynote by Augie Award winner Jesse Schell, and I think it was still on a VHS tape. Not funny? Come on. You're still need to be awake. Anyway, it illustrates the industry's mindset back then. Here's what he said.
You seen this? It's going to be giant.
Can we get some volume?
I'm like, what is it? What's going to be giant? They're like, this AR thing. I'm like, well, what do you do? They're like, well, you hold it up and there's a 3D model. I'm like, and what do you do? And they're like, you tilt it. I'm like, oh, you mean like I can flip it around? Well, no, you can tilt it kind of a certain number of degrees before it disappears.
Remember those days? Back then, we were fools. At least we felt that way when we were pitching to investors and corporations. Now, the tables are turning. If you do not realize XR is essential for your business, you may be the fool. Ladies and gentlemen, XR is now finally set for growth. Where are we on this chart? On the cusp of a hockey stick. Can we get a little closer? Even closer? That's it. You see, we are right here. This is a great spot because from here it only goes up. How can I tell? Here are the 5 strong signals supporting this claim. Exhibit A. Analysts agree XR has the potential to reach a market of $200 billion. They don't always agree on when this will happen, but definitely within the next decade. And some big names are behind this. Exhibit B. By now, everyone has heard about AR and VR. They may not exactly understand how it's going to impact their lives, but the awareness is an all-time high at this point. Millions are using VR. How many are using AR? According to our Artillery's survey, 1/3 of all mobile users have tried AR. There's, of course, still a lot of people to convince, but by early next year, we expect to hit 1 billion XR users. And that's an amazing install base to work with. And even without mobile, if you just look at install base of headsets, it's on a major growth curve. Exhibit C. As of last year, all the tech giants are in. They're making huge bets in XR because they see that as the next growth engine beyond mobile. Exhibit D. Investors are also very interested. They may be shifting their focus between different sectors, different geographies, but in the past 12 months, they have invested a record $7.2 billion in XR companies. And finally, Exhibit E. Fortune 1000 companies are very enthusiastic about XR. And they're also very pragmatic. ROI studies are showing conclusive evidence that XR is actually improving their businesses. Over 70% of all Fortune 1000 companies have already implemented XR or plan to implement it in the next couple of years. Just look at this list of Fortune 1000 companies at the last AWE that were demonstrating their XR achievements or evaluating their next steps for adoption. So whenever you meet a skeptic, remember these 5 signals. XR market is a $200 billion market. We're about to hit 1 billion XR users. Most large corporations are already adopting XR. And tech giants are making big bets in XR. And investors are all over XR. XR is on the cusp of exploding. I rest my case. And that's why in 2018, everyone must go XR or go extinct. So here's my question to New York City. You ready? Are you ready to play? Are you ready to play, New York City? All right. We are headed to the inevitable inflection point where more headsets are sold than smartphones. And the question on everyone's mind is, of course, when will smart glasses go mainstream? Since 2014, many, including myself, have been guilty of saying it will come in 3 years. And it keeps being 3 years away. So today, I have a definite answer. And it's not 42, it's actually T288. That's, of course, Apple's code name for their future smart glasses. What can I say? They have a great track record in timing the market right. And it's probably by 2021. But Apple is not the only one. Over 50 companies are delivering great smart glasses and headsets to the market. And some are here in New York City. So yes, we all want headsets, but there's no time to waste. Mobile use cases are already delivering tremendous value in the market, in social, e-commerce, industrial, real estate, healthcare, any vertical you can think of. And it's impacting everything that we're touching in our lives. This current mobile stage is essential to prepare the market for headsets. But with all that amazing progress in the XR industry, the single thing that will make or break us is how we as an industry handle privacy. What does this face tell you? I'm so sorry for not respecting your privacy. And with XR, the amount of data collected about us by corporation will only increase when everything we do is captured and analyzed on camera. Privacy will be a huge concern that must never, never, never be underestimated. Just remember this face. But today we're celebrating because we're all going to Spaceland. Why Spaceland? Because up until now, we've been living in Flatland. We get all our information from two-dimensional screens. Flatland is, of course, a reference to the cult classic sci-fi book from 1884. Any fans of the book in the audience? All right, nice. That's the best number of fans I've seen so far. Anyway, it's about an imaginary world where people that live in one dimension cannot perceive a world with more dimensions. And when you think of it, it's sort of a metaphor for the transformation we're going through right now. In order to cross over to the third dimension, you need people, special people with abilities that can see into the next dimension. These are the kind of people we're looking for RLab, and I think many of them are actually right here. But why do we want to live in Spaceland? Why do we need spatial computing? You know this guy, Marshall McLuhan, one of the greatest thinkers of the 20th century, which pretty much invented media studies, is known for the saying, the medium is the message. The idea that each medium has a different impact on the human sensorium, and as a result, changes the message. But in a new book about media from this century, The Marvelous Clouds, John Peters says, the world itself is the medium. For many millennia, humans have consumed information directly from the real world, from things and places and people. That's our nature. So I believe the world, the original medium, is making a comeback. Today in almost every task in our lives, we constantly switch from digital data to the real world. How many times? On average, 234 times a day. I just made up this number, but doesn't it sound right? Sounds low, that's right. So how much time and money can we save if we eliminate that switch? What if we sync all the digital information with the real world? For many companies, studies are showing savings of 25%, 40%, and even 99% in some cases. So what if we could sync the digital data with the physical world for a whole nation? We could increase GDP by 20% or more. Also made up this number, but doesn't it sound right? At the heart of this change will be something I call the AR cloud, a spatial 3D map, a digital copy of the real world that allows to organize information on the physical world itself. We finally have AR that works. We can easily place a hologram anywhere, but it's a lonely experience. It's not persistent and it's not shareable. The AR cloud enables us to share persistent AR experiences with many users across many devices. And this is what's going to make AR go mainstream. And the beauty of it is it's not sci-fi. Many startups are demonstrating this is possible today, and some are actually here in New York City. This can really enable humanity to make the leap to the next level. Let me explain. Kevin Kelly, Wired founder, recently wrote how the internet gave us superpowers, thanks to its ability to connect humans in real time. But then it continues, but the main event has barely started. One day, he says, 1 million people will collaborate around the globe to create something really stupendous. And I see this as a challenge for the XR industry to create the spatial Wikipedia. In 2001, Wikipedia was probably the dumbest idea in history, right? But it worked. Now with the AR cloud, we can enable millions of people to collaborate not with text, but by visually capturing the collective human intelligence and about everything, place, and person, and make it available not by search, but at a glance, anywhere you go. So what do you say? Who's up for creating the spatial Wikipedia? All right, very nice. So what would that spatial computing world look like? Let's go back to Jesse Schell in 2010.
Well, here we are, ARE 2010. What is ARE 2020 going to be like, right? We're going to build some stuff we don't even know.
And you know, 9 years later, we still don't know exactly how it's going to look like. And that's why it's so exciting. That's why we're gathering in events like this, and that's why we have RLab. RLab is really a great place to start your journey into spatial computing. And when you join RLab, you actually join a global community of thousands of XR professionals. They meet in 3 big AWE events, as well as in meetups. For those who cannot wait for those events, they can meet in 10 cities around the world, including, of course, New York City, which is the longest-running AR meetup in the world, thanks to all of you. And RLab is really the new home of this meetup. So from now on, if you want to get a sense of what's happening in the AR world on a monthly basis, New York City and RLab is the place to be. So RLab, as Justin mentioned, is now accepting applications for the Winter Accelerator program. It's a 3-month program where we work with you to identify your goals and then set up kind of weekly meetings to review the progress. We match you with mentors and experts that understand your product and your market, as well as corporations that could be your future customers and partners. And SuperVentures will provide the initial funding for that, as well as help you with follow-on funding. SuperVentures is one of the first VC funds dedicated to AR and VR, and it's built of, very experienced entrepreneurs, researchers, thought leaders in the space. So to give you a sense of what we're looking for, here are the 6 areas that I think are really unique to AR and VR. They're really going to define this new wave of spatial computing. So one is mapping, but mapping in 3D. The ability to scan the world so that so computers can understand where we are, place content on it. This is really the AR cloud. Second is world building. We need a new category of creation tools that can create content to fill those worlds. And then digital perception. The idea that we now need to sense information from the real world through our senses, hearing, touching, and so on and so forth. And then natural interaction with no mouse and keyboard. How do you interact with the real world? You need a new kind of interaction with the computer, like gaze and gesture, and maybe brain-computer interfaces. And then shared presence. If you want to collaborate with people in a room or with people that are remote in an AR or VR experience, you need to have something that you could call a shared experience. And finally, upgrading ourselves. How do we make ourselves better at anything that we do by really tapping into the collective intelligence and helping us all master skills instantly? So this is my message to all of you. Ask not what XR can do for you, ask how you can build XR experiences that will make the world a better place. So to recap, XR is set for growth, which means we're all going to Spaceland, where the world itself is the medium, and now is the time to go XR or go extinct. And if that's a little bit too harsh for you, just use XR and be awesome. Have a great event. Thank you.